Hi, my name is Anna Dice, and I'm here to talk to you about analyzing and improving stamina. So my project focus was improving my stamina. My problem was that I have a lack of exercise, so I crash after lunch every day, wake up sleepy, I don't have energy to do the things I want to do on the weekends. So why is this happening? An exercise routine could, in theory, improve my focus and increase my energy. But why can't I get into a steady routine? I took a new set of measurements from October 15th to November 5th. So I implemented a few improvements and then took some data. So now I have my baseline versus my improvement data. The things I measured were steps taken daily, levels of Duolingo that I achieved daily, and time spent exercising. I have my 5 whys and a fault tree diagram that I constructed to try to find things that prevent me from increasing my stamina. So the first thing I want to look at are X charts that I did on just my number of steps during my measure phase and during my improvement phase. So the first thing I want to point out is the center line. So that's the CL, the blue line in the middle of each chart. So during my improvement phase, it was about 14,268 steps for my average or center line. Versus my measure phase, it was about 8,840 steps per day on average. Therefore, I can say that my improvement must have been somewhat effective because I was able to increase my total number of steps taken per day. I also did a measurement, just a run chart. So I took the number of steps I take every day during my measurement phase and then during my improved phase, because I wanted to look at both of them. So the average here is about 11,600 per day. And the one thing I noticed that was interesting, so the orange line is my improvement data and the blue line is my measure data. So the measure data came first. And what I did notice that was interesting was, first of all, my improvements must have worked because the data shows an overall increase in the number of steps taken. However, they did overlap several days. So for instance, on day 8 and day 11, on both of them, they kind of intersect, and even the measure phase could be slightly better for the data. So this means that maybe my improvements overall are working, but there's certain days when other factors are probably contributing, and maybe I just have less time on those days to implement more exercise, or I'm just not moving as much on certain days. So that's something to be mindful of. I also looked at the number of levels that I achieved per day on my Duolingo app. So this is a language learning app. I ran a one-way ANOVA just on a single factor because I just had the number of levels that I achieved per day. And I looked at the measure versus the improve phase data. And what I noticed was I have a statistically significant difference between the two. So my improved data was a lot better. I was able to achieve more levels per day, which is what I would hope to be true. So I want to take a minute here and just talk about my 5 whys that I did, and then I did a fault tree as well that I'll cover. So my significant why for this 5 whys was that I have no time to exercise. So then I asked, why don't I have time? So I have school, I have work, I have a new house, and then I have 2 dogs. And then I asked, why do these take time? So school takes time because I'm working on both my homework for the class and then my thesis. Work, I just have multiple projects, so it keeps my brain very busy and it fatigues me. And then for the new house, it's just renovations. For the dogs, I have to walk them and train them. So why does that matter? So for homework, I just have a lot of assignments. For my thesis, I have to format it. And then for work, I have multiple projects, which matters because this is my first real job that I consider my first real job. And I just enjoy it a lot. The house and the renovations are important because this is my first home and it's a new home for me. The dogs, walking them will wear them out, and training helps them to behave overall. But why bother doing any of those things? Well, for school, I have to pass, and then also with my thesis, I have to graduate. For work overall, I just have to prove myself because it is my first real job. For the house, I want to make it mine. Like I said, it's my first house, so I'm just really excited to be able to paint the walls because I've never been able to do that in an apartment. For the dogs, I want them to behave. So I have to wear them out and train them. So that led me to my last why, which was for school, I need to pass this class in order to graduate. And I need to graduate because my family and employer expect me to graduate. It's kind of other people's expectations of me. For work, I've just been conditioned to work hard. I also, like I said, I really am passionate about this job. I love it, so it's easy to lose myself in it. For the new house, I feel like magazines have probably gotten to my head somewhat, but also just that suddenly I can do anything I want, so I want to do a lot of things to it. For the dogs, it can be really stressful if they misbehave. So if they're chewing on things and being destructive, it just leads me to have even less time because I'm cleaning up after them. So I also did a fault tree. So I looked at the fault is I don't get enough exercise. So whose fault is that, right? I get tired throughout the day. That means work is harder to focus on. I don't get much done at work. And then I can't contribute new formulas and new ideas. That would lead me to having really low job satisfaction because pride in your work is the only thing that kind of keeps you going. So I also put off doing homework because I fall behind on the readings and then I have to rush through assignments, which could lead to poor grades. Also, if I don't get enough exercise, my muscles cramp and hurt, leading me to avoid workouts, which is really pretty circular because then I don't get enough exercise yet again. So for improvement, I want to use the 5 whys in my data. So one of my ideas when looking at this data is to write out my plan for improving my house and just a general timeline. That'll help reduce my stressor there. And then another idea for improvement is to make exercise more enjoyable. So have a strong, motivating goal can help. But then I realized the best plan was to have a reward system. So things like massages, food treats, bath bombs, new workout gear, things that'll help me flourish. Oh, sorry. I also looked into my fault tree and that data. So I need to schedule time for homework and lecture materials every week. I need to avoid muscle ache by exercising regularly. And I had a bunch of other ideas. I just jotted some of them down where I could exercise my dogs for a set amount of time. So like they get an hour of my time and then that's it. They have to behave after that. I could decrease my workload and projects at work, but I don't really like to do that because I love taking on new things and learning. I could decrease my time wasting activities like Instagram scrolling and Netflix binges because that's just a waste of my life basically. I did find a good hack was to use Instagram and the hashtags to find kind of motivation for working out and new workout ideas. I could also just clean my house 1 time a week instead of every single day because I'm kind of a neat freak. And then I could finish my thesis early. But now that that is kind of behind me, I don't have to worry so much. That's a load off my mind. Now I can focus just on this project, this class, and exercise. So I will say overall, I did find that this is working. I have more motivation. I have a little clearer mindset and can exercise more often. So my next phase is to use analytical tools to measure my impact of other improvements to this process. So November 26th through December 9th. That is my future work timeline. I have, after that I'll do control charts. I'll analyze daily trends. I'll do a cause and effect diagram to determine the root cause of any failures. And then I'll do a histogram just to compare all of my data to see effects of any improvements. And then I have a few image credits, and that's it.